Okay, so this video is for my mate Bob, VK7RX more than anybody. Just going through a ICR9000, which is, as you can see, we're getting a bit of light to the screen. We're getting a S-meter light up, but and we're getting some of the manual switching that's going to light up happening, but we're not getting any talking as far as anything to the process. Obviously the screen, no beeping, no nothing. We're also getting no sound output, so no matter what we do, volume, we've got a speaker hooked up and nothing coming out. A couple of interesting things it does. Just I suppose initially, I've been thinking power supply, so we've been sort of checking volts on, and every time you see a red line, unfortunately that means volts are there, which it's just sort of going through and going. Would have been nice if there was a missing 9 volt or a missing minus 0.7 or sorry, minus 7 volt, etc, etc. But still sort of checking through. But yeah, look, everything there looks absolutely, well, reasonably right. And this is where I'm appealing to someone who's had a bit more experience with these things, because what we don't know is whether like a prom fault could cause all these faults. You know, it could be, what I've done is I did a bit of time looking at the timer circuit actually, just in case, you know, there was an interrupt happening in the timer circuit. As you can see here, it's mainly for Bob, they feed volts in VCC here on pin 18, and yeah, that was present, and actually does switch from 5 to 2.7, you know, between the timer function, between the radio being turned on and turned off. So that was looking pretty right. The 32 kilohertz signal here was looking fine on the oscillator output. Needed slight adjustment, but no, that wasn't going to be it. But, you know, we're okay. So, I mean, is it possible that still a segment of this timer circuit could be giving trouble? Good question, but I don't think so. I think we've got too many other things happening at the moment, although they could be sending us false false ideas on where to go. A lot of these things here could be operated under the 12 volt circuit and very much manual, not anything to do with any sort of EPROMs that may control, obviously, some of the area up here. I'm still thinking it's a volts issue. I've got to be honest. I just keep on, and I've got to sort of change that thinking a bit, because if you get stuck on a particular mode of thinking, sometimes you can waste a lot of time and find that you don't actually get anywhere. But just from, I mean, look, all the functional things like the CRT, you know, up and down, you know, this is all going to sort of happen with the meter dimming, because this is all done at, you know, 12 volt level, etc. You know, so a lot of the functional switch functions are working. Speech, obviously, oh, that's a speech record, sorry. Once again, a manual switch light comes up, but, you know, that doesn't mean anything. So this one has been one I've spent a little bit of time on so far, and probably too many hours. I thought I'll make this video for my good mate Bob, he's looking at a service manual just like I am at the moment, and going through various different thoughts. Now I'll just turn over and show you a couple of things. So what they do on the ICR9000 is they hide all the power supply and DC to DC stuff underneath these units here, and so hidden down here is the supply unit. Some people actually used to complain that there were heat issues that I've read about with the supplies, more so on the 781 transmitters versus this, I think. But and this is obviously where we get a lot of our volts from, etc, etc. But yeah, that's looking reasonably fine, which is a bit scary. We've had this fella out here to get underneath to logic board A to have a bit of a look at the timer circuit, and look, it looked all right. It's once again, it is a little difficult to do a lot of checks, even when you bring up the data sheet on the RP5C15. Excuse me, it's really difficult to tell. My gut feel is no, there's nothing wrong here, especially with the 32 kilohertz, you know, sort of oscillator running, and all the voltages look correct around it. Just having a bit of a probe around with the Crow, it looked okay, but haven't had a lot to do with timer chips before. This is a very old chip too, so interesting one. Anyway, so this is where we're at the moment, and it's I mean, there's a glorious old radio to get going. The fear I've got is that we're missing something at the moment, something that is far simpler. Oh, the other thing interesting with the discriminator, with the FM circuit, the signal, the meter. Now, once again, this could be a very manual function that happens, that not requiring a lot of digital thought. So, you know, not a lot there, but certainly for FM, for certainly for getting the frequency accuracy, it's wanting to do the right thing, but you know, I don't think you can get a lot out of that. I really don't. I think it doesn't teach you much. I'm in two minds as to, I've got another radio here where I know for sure someone's been into it about 1,000 times. It was the worst buy on the planet. This one is a little different. I've got to say, I haven't found the insane amount of wrong screws in it, and you know, like that someone's been added on this one. It's very possible that this is only one fault that we're looking for, whereas the 902 I've got sitting in is a number of faults. It's even missing a board in there. It's like anyway, that was the worst $500 I've ever spent. But anyway, what do you do? So this here, I'd be interested, Bob, obviously, have a look at this and see what you think. I go back to this supply here, and really I'm trying to think what I'm missing in the voltages that we've checked here. And if you can see something here where I've got a red line not marked in, you know, that suggests to check something, please yell out, because normally our videos are about, hey, we fixed this one and this is how we did it. This one's going to be a little bit more of a nightmare video, where it'll actually be interesting input from, you know, from anybody that watches this channel, because I've just not had a lot to do with the ICR9000s before, and my fear is possibly that, you know, there's a PROM issue which would need to get reburnt, and that would be interesting. I do have a friend of mine that has one of these, so that may be our way out there if worst really comes to worst to duplicate a PROM. But it's always a big ask, isn't it, to go to somebody and say, oh, can we just borrow the PROM out your radio for a little bit, just to copy it and burn another one. Anyway, but yeah, look, I'm not sure that that's it at the moment. I still think it could be a voltage issue. Something just keeps on bothering me about I'm missing something in the volts. But it is very interesting that you know, there's absolutely no audio out of this, and you know, I wouldn't have thought a PROM had anything to do with, for instance, for the audio. You know, and the fact that we're getting a little bit of indicator off the squelch. Now, very strange that we're getting squelch meter movement, so there's something not, you know, 100% right there. I mean, I would understand the RF gain movement, you know, doing so. Squelch movement, I sort of went, okay, so what's going on there? That would be on the worry about later, and I think you'll find that once again that'll be, it to me seems like a volts issue that, you know, is causing that to be a concern. But look, I know we've got a few guys on this channel that are techs that have had a bit to do with some of the older ICOM gear. This one, unfortunately, I was probably not even, would have been into my apprenticeship when this was made, but I don't think we ever saw one in for service. It's a bit like the 781s. We didn't see too many of those either. You know, later in life, sure, but beyond my time, I was already out sort of doing other things. But so yeah, feel free in the comment section or to drop me, you know, an email, brenton@posnav.com.au, or you know, if you've had any experience with these, definitely this one's put out as a question more so than a tutorial. As you can see, I'm sort of working my way through it, but I'm probably looking for a shortcut in your experience or your thoughts, because I'm probably about 7 or 8 hours into it, and I'm kind of going, oh, this is not going to be an easy feat, but not one I want to give up on either. So, you know, I just love it if we even had a beep out of something, but like nothing beeps, nothing. There's so many different things that are not happening. Obviously nothing, normally you'd get the bottom display of this here. Actually just noticing here, which I didn't notice before, notice how now these are very mechanical to some degree, but we're getting nothing there. Speech obviously is not going to come up. The lock button did come up, that's right. So yeah, there's quite a few things that just don't do. I mean, I would have expected probably just to get some indicator lights off of here. Just even if nothing else worked, of course, I would have thought these were more mechanical and coming off, say 13 volt supplies, etc., that we know are there on the unit. So there you go. There's the challenge. If anybody has any ideas, most of you know how to get me on PM by Messenger, and certainly my email that we just mentioned, brenton@posnav.com.au. And yeah, certainly any thoughts, any wrecked boards, any. To be honest, I wouldn't even know where to start. Even if someone handed me a wrecked one at the moment, I'm not sure that's going to be the ultimate answer. I'm not one for just changing boards out. I like to find faults, and try and diagnose down to the level where you can actually fix it. But if you can imagine, if this was to be a problem fault on this, yeah, we sort of could be in a little bit of trouble there, because you're sort of guessing a little bit as to, it's a matter of having a replacement prom to be able to quickly plug in and say hello, sort of. But don't know that I'm going to sort of call it that at the moment. Certainly would need to do a little bit more checking around how to diagnose around the prom a bit, but also what I want to sort of really do is try and isolate circuits as much as possible. We've got a lot of things not happening on this radio, and one of the thoughts was initially the just a point for you, Bob, the rear 13.8 volt output fuse was blown, and one of the points that initially I thought I'm just going to isolate that area just in case. Actually, I'll just show that. Yeah, so just in the back here, they run a little fuse for a little, half amp type output, just to run some meter lights and things, etc. Now that was blown, but when we turn on now, hang on, I'll just show that. Yeah, so when we put a fuse back into it, yeah, look, 13.8 volts sitting there off the 240 volt supply, so we're pretty happy with that. So all good there, and fuse actually works. So yeah, we didn't have a problem with, say, I think somebody did draw too much current from it. The fuse is blown, and no other issues that have kind of transpired in that area there. So the other thing too is, once again, as I was saying before, all screws are original. Boards don't even look like they've ever been out of it. So I do think we're looking for one fault, as distinct from that other waste of $500 I've got sitting in the shed at the moment. I just that one just annoys me, because when people go in and and they've obviously had various people looking at things, like sort of, not saying the person who sold it to me, but someone has, it's just a write-off. But this one I feel a bit differently about. I think it can be fixed, and we're $1,000 into this one. You might think that sounds a bit crazy for one of these things, but you get it going, and it's a great old receiver for the collection to chuck in with the other sort of 100 odd receivers we've got there. It's a bit crazy, isn't it? But yeah, this one would be a nice one to chuck in there. So our goal is, it's not even monetary. I couldn't care less about the money. It's more, I'd like to get it going to have an example of the era and exactly how ICOM sort of established such a flagship receiver, and they were flagship receivers. These 9000, 9000L. This is the earlier 9000. 9000L had the LCD screen, but a little bit difficult to work on, and the fact there's a lot jam packed underneath boards, so you've got to kind of go level. It's so every time you're pulling it to bits. If you're working on one of these, maybe a few photos just in and out, just to make sure. The service manual is good. It's very good, actually, as far as every connector, it tells you where it goes, etc. So if you get yourself into trouble, definitely don't guess. Go back to the service manual and just refer to your in and outs. But photos certainly help a lot. Okay, so a bit different. As you can see, I'm covered in paperwork here. I've been printing, making, red marks on things, and sort of trying to see if we can work this one out. My crow's done overtime with, and so have my service monitors up here. We've been just trying to check so many things, from oscillators to so many bits and pieces to, but yeah. If this is not a voltage problem, I reckon it's a prom problem, but I don't know. We'll see. It's a pretty broad thing to say, isn't it? It's not exactly definitive. Anyway, if you've got any thoughts, you know how to contact me. This one is a bit of a cry for help, and I thought, well, what the hell, we've got a lot of people on our YouTube channel that know and have experience far beyond mine, and I appreciate your compliments at times on different things we show and do, but you may be the key, especially Bob, Mr. 7RX. Bob is my fix-it man. Whenever something is get put in the too hard basket, we call him Bobcat Electronics. Big joke, that one, but Bob does. And by the way, he doesn't use a Bobcat to go through radios. It's just something that took off with us. But Bob is so definitive, has taught me so much about how to sort of fault find. And obviously he hasn't taught me enough, because I'm still struggling in some areas, for sure, when we get a fault like this. But that's how you learn, by the way. Sometimes, humility is a good thing, in the fact that if you can just go out to the fraternity out there, there's always somebody that's willing to teach and trying to, give you a bit of an idea. Maybe something, maybe I've got a bit exhausted on this one, and I'm missing something really awfully simple. Can happen, absolutely. 73s, all the best from VK3 Charlie Mike. And well, hopefully we do a video one day of this thing going. You never know. And by the way, I'm not shitty about the $1,000 I spent on this. I'm not at all. This one's different. This one's got potential plus. I actually think that if we get this going, even if we got it going for another $500 on top of it, couldn't care less. It'd be a great historical piece to put with the rest of them. So, that's my thinking. It's certainly not. This is not a video against the guy that sold it to me, because actually I appreciate the fact that he put it up for $1,000, not going. He didn't not disclose anything to anybody. We took it on, and quite happy to. Even if this becomes a no fixer, I would have taken the gamble every day of the week on this one. So anyway, that's my sentiments on this one. I don't have a negative feeling about it. Actually, if anything, I feel like, let's get it fixed. Let's have a bit of fun. And anyway, that might take a bit more time. 73s, all the best. Cheers.